Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something a bit intense today?
Intense is putting it mildly.
We're talking about Moloch. You know, our listeners are always up for a challenge.
Yeah, they really like to get into the weeds with us.
And this one, well, this one's going to be a wild ride.
It really is fascinating but wild.
So we're talking about this ancient deity, right?
Right.
Moloch,
Yeah.
linked with child sacrifice and worshipped by...
Yeah, some pretty major ancient cultures.
And what blows my mind is how his image has changed
Oh, absolutely.
over time, like taking on all these different meanings.
It's kind of amazing how it's evolved, yeah.
That's true.
It gives you this look into how ancient cultures viewed the whole idea of the divine, their relationship with the gods. It's like we're confronting these beliefs and practices that just seem, well, abhorrent to us now.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it.
Okay.
Who was Moloch?
Well, we're talking about ancient Semitic civilizations thousands of years ago. Groups like the Canaanites and Amorites around the Middle East.
Got it.
And Moloch was one of their gods. But what made him stand out from all the other gods in their pantheon?
Uh-oh. This is where it gets a little creepy, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
We're talking child sacrifice.
Exactly. Child sacrifice was a central part of Moloch's worship.
And, I mean, obviously, from where we stand today, that's just...
Horrifying.
horrifying.
It really is. But we got to try to understand the context, right? Their cultural context. I mean, the people who practiced this didn't see it as evil.
Right.
They thought this was how they would gain Moloch's favor, his protection. You know, like the ultimate act of devotion.
Even if it's, like, impossible for us to even fathom.
Yeah.
Wow. It's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
To even think about it. It makes you wonder about how children are still so vulnerable.
In different ways, yeah.
In our world, like child labor or the impact of poverty and stuff.
Right.
Different context, but still.
The vulnerability is there. And that's something Moloch's story really brings to light.
Absolutely. It makes you think about the systems, the things that perpetuate harm.
Even if it's not literal sacrifice, yeah.
Okay. So we've got this image of Moloch.
This child-devouring deity.
Right. But is there actually evidence? Or is it just like scary campfire stories?
Oh, we've got evidence.
Okay, tell me more.
Both biblical and archaeological. We've got the Bible, for instance, the book of Leviticus. It actually condemns sacrificing children to Moloch.
Really?
Calls it an abomination. So you can see this wasn't some fringe belief, you know?
Yeah.
For the Israelites to put it in their religious texts like that, they were serious.
It was a big deal.
Big deal.
What about archaeological stuff?
Oh, we've got some incredible sites. The Tophet in Carthage, for example.
Okay. What's that?
Basically, a cemetery, specifically for children.
Oh, wow.
Archaeologists have found urns there filled with cremated remains.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it confirms this practice.
It's real.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And there are inscriptions too, like vows people made to the gods.
So this wasn't just like, some random practice. It was...
Ingrained in their society.
Right.
Woven into everything. Their private lives, public ceremonies, the whole deal.
that level of devotion. It's just hard to fathom.
It really is. And it's easy to get fixated on the Moloch story.
It's a wild one.
It is. But it's important to remember he wasn't alone in this.
You mean like other cultures had similar practices?
Oh, yeah.
Like who?
Well, think about the Aztecs. They offer human hearts
Weird.
to their gods. They believed it was crucial for keeping the cosmos in balance.
Wow.
To ensure the sun would keep rising and setting.
Makes you think what people will do, right?
It does. And the Norse, they made sacrifices to their gods too. Odin, Thor, especially during tough times, like war or hardship.
So lots of different cultures, but they kind of all believed that sacrificing life would please the gods.
Exactly. And they thought it would bring about positive outcomes. And that's what makes this so fascinating. You've got all these geographically and culturally diverse societies.
Yeah, all over the place.
But they share this fundamental belief in sacrifice.
Like the ultimate act of devotion.
Yeah, it's like this common human impulse, Maybe wanting to control what we can't control, to make deals with fate.
It really makes you wonder, what drove these beliefs?
It's the big question, isn't it?
What made people go to such extremes?
It's a puzzle for sure. It really is. It's like a puzzle. A mix of fear of the unknown, maybe.
Makes sense.
And a desire for security.
Yeah.
Prosperity, right? Plus this deep belief that the gods could really mess with human affairs.
Right. They had all the power.
You're doing.
Makes you think about how our ideas of right and wrong,
Oh, totally.
they're all shaped by our time and place, right?
Absolutely.
But okay, let's shift gears a little.
Okay.
We've been talking about the historical Moloch, right?
Right.
Ancient history. A totally different world.
A different world for sure.
But what about now? What about Moloch's legacy? Why are we even talking about this guy today?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Moloch's image, it's not just an ancient god anymore.
Right.
He's like a symbol, this powerful symbol. In medieval and Renaissance literature, you see him depicted as a demon.
What? Like the devil.
Yeah, like the embodiment of evil.
Oh.
It's because of that association with child sacrifice, you know? How it became the ultimate no-no.
So he went from god to monster.
You got it. Kind of like a boogeyman.
Wow. Okay, but it didn't stop there, right? You said he's become like a metaphor.
Exactly.
That's-
In the modern era, think about Fritz Lang's film Metropolis.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it.
That scene with the giant machine eating up workers.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's Moloch. It's like this image, this powerful image that shows the dark side of industrialization, how so-called progress can cost us big time.
Human costs.
Human cost, exactly.
Okay, I get it. So even though we're not worshiping Moloch literally,
Right.
we're using his image.
As a stand-in for things we fear, the systems we see as destructive.
Or oppressive.
Yeah, like this symbol that fits anything that feels like a threat to humanity.
That's a powerful idea.
It is, and that's why Moloch's story is still relevant today.
It's not just some old story.
It's not. It forces us to look at those darker sides of ourselves.
The good and the bad.
Yeah, the good and the bad. That capacity for both devotion and cruelty. You know, it reminds us that blind faith, well, it can be dangerous.
And what we're willing to sacrifice in its name.
Exactly.
It's making me think about what you said earlier about those modern-day Molochs, the things that demand our constant sacrifice.
Even if we don't realize it.
Yeah.
It's a thought-provoking idea for sure. Think about how we prioritize the economy.
Like money over everything.
Yeah, over the environment, for example. We're sacrificing the health of the planet.
For progress, for growth.
Yeah, the well-being of future generations, all on the altar of progress.
Wow. So are you saying we're like offering up the planet
Yeah.
as a sacrifice
Yeah.
to this idea of economic prosperity?
It's a good question. And it's not just the environment, it's how we push ourselves at work.
Working ourselves to death, basically.
Yeah. Sacrificing health, relationships, to get ahead in our careers. And then there's our privacy,
Oh, yeah, and our data.
all for the sake of convenience, technology.
This is kind of freaking me out now.
It's a lot to think about.
I was reading about all the data social media companies collect,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm thinking, are we really that different from those people making offerings to the gods?
Interesting point. You could say we've just traded temples for algorithms, sacrifices for data points.
It's like we've created these digital Molochs.
Algorithms that demand our constant attention, even if it's bad for us.
And what happens if we don't?
Well, the consequences can be pretty serious.
More than just feeling bad.
Right. Look at the rise of anxiety and depression, the erosion of privacy, the spread of fake news. It's all connected.
So what do? Are we doomed to be slaves to these digital Molochs forever?
I don't think so.
Give me some hope here.
The first step is awareness, right? Recognizing what we're sacrificing to, those systems that are constantly sucking up our energy.
Okay, so we have to see it first.
Yeah. Once we see it for what it is, then we can start questioning it, challenge it.
So it's about being more aware of our choices.
Exactly. What are we prioritizing? What's the cost?
Because sometimes the things we're going after, the things we think are so important,
Might actually be leading us down the wrong path.
like we need a new definition of success.
Yeah.
You know, what a good life really means.
Yeah, outside of all these systems that are just
Screaming for our attention.
screaming for our attention, exactly. And you've hit on something important here.
What's that?
We've been talking about Moloch as this outside force.
Right, like this ancient god or
An ancient god, yeah, or these systems that demand...
constant sacrifice.
Right, constant sacrifice. But there's this other side to it,
Oh.
the inside piece. Like, what are we sacrificing in ourselves?
What do you mean?
Our values, our passions, all to fit in, to conform to these...
External pressures.
Exactly. So we end up kind of swallowing those demands.
And sacrificing parts of ourselves.
Yeah, without even realizing it. And that's the tough part.
So what do we do about it?
Well, we have to reclaim those parts of ourselves, figure out what really matters.
To us.
To us, yeah. And find a way to live according to our own values.
Even if it means going against the grain.
Even if it means going against the grain, challenging the status quo.
So it's not just about fighting those forces outside of us.
Right.
It's about changing something inside.
It's about realizing we have the power to choose
Right.
what we value.
How we want to live.
Exactly. Taking back control. Making choices that fit with our deepest values, even if it means,
Swimming upstream.
swimming upstream. Absolutely.
After this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm seeing Moloch totally differently now.
Mm.
He's not just this scary figure from the past.
Right.
He's like a mirror, reflecting our own tendencies, how we're so willing to sacrifice
Actually, great point.
the good and the bad in us.
It's all there. And that's what's so cool about exploring these ancient myths.
I know, right?
They help us understand ourselves, our motivations, the choices we make when things get tough.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Moloch,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with?
The big takeaway for me, we all make sacrifices.
Every day.
Every single day. Big ones, small ones, doesn't matter. The question is,
What are we giving up for?
are we sacrificing to something that truly matters? Or are we just feeding these modern-day Molochs?
The ones that want all our time, energy.
Yeah, our souls even. In the end, the choice is ours.
That's powerful stuff. So as you go about your day making decisions, just ask yourself,
What am I sacrificing to?
is it really worth it? This has been The Deep Dive,
Hope you enjoyed it.
and we'll catch you next time.